Thank you for tuning in to another episode of my Veterans to Success podcast. You probably know by now, my mission is to help 1 million veterans and entrepreneur business owners achieve the dreams, goals, and aspirations they deserve. That is why I created the Veterans to Success podcast, because I get to interview guys, men and women, who want to share their fascinating stories with you about their time before, during and after their time in the military, so you can benefit and overcome your challenges. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be mesmerized, astounded, and entertained. Hello, Jim.
Hello, and thank you for introducing me not as a giant. So thank you for that.
Okay, you can be a giant if you want. Yes, please.
I am now, Mr. Civvy, my God.
Right, so listen, Jim, we met on LinkedIn because I love it for a business network, and we'll be talking about that a bit later on. The fact is, we've done a little bit of a chat, and I find it fascinating what you did in the military and also what you do now. So tell me about your time before the military, just so we can get an understanding of what makes you who you are.
Right, before the military. I think the best way to say it was I wasn't a school guy. I was more a girls and having fun guy. And, you know, of course, as you grow up and you grow older and you notice that everyone's leaving for university, and all of a sudden the town seems very empty and you're seeing the same faces and the same places. And I realized that wasn't for me. And I had to get out. So first thing I did was I sold everything I had and I went to America for a couple of months, and I went to Chicago. And of course, September 11th happened while I was there. And by that time I'd already applied to the Royal Navy, and I had totally forgotten about it until I got the letter saying, while I was in America, the letter came through saying you join in October. And I was like, oh, perfect timing, just in time. And so I flew back, and within literally 2 weeks, I was standing at the gates of HMS Raleigh with a shaved head going, what the hell am I doing with what the hell am I doing here? But what shaped me was the fact that it was that I felt left behind. I felt that I wasn't doing anything new or exciting. It was, what was it, 2001 that I joined, and you could hear a lot of people saying Sprog from a long while away.
Yeah,
there you go.
I've got that.
Yeah, and but I remember getting on that train and thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? But I never looked back. For the whole time I was at basic training, I loved every second of it, and I realized it's where I wanted to be and where I had to be for me at that time. And you know, even in the first couple of weeks, met friends for life. You know, that's the way it runs. You know, you never forget the first guys and girls you served with, and you know, to this day, you know, I'm still in contact with quite a few of them, and they've all gone on to other things. Some of them are still in. One of them's just been promoted to Warrant Officer 2. So, you know, that's scary in the thought that 22 years ago, you know, these, you know, people who couldn't even grow a beard are now you know, in charge of men and women around the world.
Have you ever wondered what is going to happen to all your knowledge, wisdom, and skills when you die? Yeah, me too. That is exactly the reason why I created joeteam.com, so I can leave a legacy for my children and for other successful people who are just like you. For less than 40 pence per day, you get access to valuable business and life resources gained from my over 37 years in business and 15 years in the military. These world-class resources are designed to help you achieve the goals, dreams, and aspirations you deserve. So visit joeteams.com now to find out more. That's joeteams.com, joeteams.com to find out more.
So, yeah, I think it was the right thing to do for me at the time, and I'm proud that I've done it. And I think, you know, everyone should be. I mean, but no, I'm happy with the person it made me within those first 8 weeks, definitely.
Right, and thanks for that, James. Now the thing is that you skated over a lot, because I know behind those statements there's a lot. I just want to dig in a little bit deeper, because and I noticed it, for instance, you know, when I joined and then I come home on leave, there was a point where at first, when I came home on leave, I would meet my friends and go out for a drink. And then as I started to come home in the coming years, as years advanced, then they all started having a family, getting married, getting kids and everything. And then I found that there was nothing left to go back to in that sense. So what was the point where you just said Royal Navy is for me? Because I didn't see the bit where you applied. I didn't.
No. Do you know what? I think for me, it was Plan Z. There was nothing else I could do. I had hardly any qualifications. I was on the dole. You know, I pulled out of college. I was sitting in a hostel. You know, I was like going, well, you know, looking at the walls, going, well, this is, you know, I'm not a stupid guy. I can be clever.
Yeah.
Although other people will beg to differ. But I looked at those walls and I just thought, I cannot do this for the rest of my life and just potter along. I can't make do. And that was the time I went to Chatham. I got on the bus, an hour, I think it was an hour and a half bus ride to Chatham dockyard. And I remember just looking at all the leaflets. And I thought to myself, I want to do something unique. I want to do something that I know that once I get there, I'll be proud of. Yeah. And maybe, I mean, this was 2001. This is where I think it was Life Without Limits, I think was the motto. And of course, you know, you get sold on all that. But I noticed the submarine service. Why? Because it paid more, but also it was a small brotherhood. It was a unique people that joined that kind of service. I wasn't fit enough to be a commando. Hell no. The army didn't scream at me, and the RAF didn't scream at me either. But there's some reason I remember it very clearly. It was this leaflet with a submarine coming in. I know now that it's a submarine coming into Helensburgh, and I remember looking at that thing, going, "Oh, you know, that's different," and it was unique. And so I did some research into the submarine service, and I thought, yeah, that's for me. But I realized that's what I wanted, even if it wasn't the right decision. At least I'd be doing something about sitting in that room. At least I'd be proactively doing something. And my God, I'm glad I did it, because you know, it was at a time where it was so hard to get out of that small town trap like that.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, no qualifications. There were hardly any jobs. You know, you were lucky to work in a double glazing place selling windows. You know, so yeah, I'm glad I did what I did, and I had to.
And that's interesting, because and I'm glad we explored that and just did a pit stop on there, because and isn't it a small world? Because I served at Brompton Barracks, just up the road from Chatham Dockyard. In fact, it's about a 5-minute walk, if that. And I was also in Rochester in the bomb disposal unit there. So what a small world. And we used to do stags around Chatham Dockyard as well. So very interesting. So that's where it all started.
Yes, I remember it very well. I remember a lot of things about it took so long to get in those days. It used to take about 9 months for your application to go through and doing all the exams and everything. And but I remember just sitting in a room full of other hopefuls, and you had to go do the exam. And we all did the exam, and the chief asked some people to leave and some people to stay. And he basically went, don't look at anyone as you leave, because they're the people that failed. Just pretend to be really upset. And so we all walked out looking down on the ground. And you could, and bless him, I don't know if he was just, you know, really bored, but you could see the people like, yeah, we've made it. As you walked out, and I felt, hopefully all those people got in at the end of it. But it's different. You can't do that now. My God. Be fired. It was inexperienced, the whole thing from start to finish.
So, and thank you. So, right, you get to your training, and I don't suppose I know we were having a chat about the different branches like Army, Navy, Air Force, and the difference in I suppose there's a commonality in the psychology that you've got to get through, but I think that there's also it's got its uniqueness. So instead of I'm your mother now, which is what my sergeant said to me, what happened when you walked over that threshold into training?
I think shock more than anything, because I had to iron clothes.
Yeah.
But I think, I was prepared for most things. Like I think I think the thing I wasn't prepared for was the amount of people that dropped out within 2 days. Like the
Right.
people that turned up, got the head shaved, stamped the boots, and then decided it wasn't for them after 2 nights. I couldn't get that. I didn't get that kind of logic of coming all that way and just giving up so quickly. And I think as well that that transition from civilian to sailor that was done in the first week was done very well, because it you didn't know, it literally was boom, boom, boom. You didn't know what was catching you. You were up at 5:30, you were bed at 10, you had to learn what kit was called, learn names and ranks, insignias, types of vessels, and it was that. But then I realized that that's what I'd missed. My brain was starting to be used,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
my legs were starting to be used, my
Hmm.
arms were starting to be used, and back in those days, I was 20 years old, which I was quite late joining, but
Yeah, yeah.
but I hadn't really had any mental stimulation in so long, and at long last I had it, and
And thank you for that. What was it about? Because you said right that uh, you were more of a girls and a fun guy rather than the exams. So what were you in the process of going off the rails, or were you going to keep on the
mm,
rails just about, or what were you doing?
I think it was. I wasn't on the rails. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't doing drugs. I wasn't anything like that.
Right.
Um, I just, I think I was one of those guys who thought that they were right all the time about
Mm,
things they weren't. They weren't. You know, I had no interest in politics. I had no interest in the news and everything else at that age. I just wanted to go out, have fun, talk about crap, and it was
yeah.
just endless. But then you sort of, when you're sort of going to the same, it was a dreary day job. I'd work in recruitment, or I'd work in sales, or it was just dreariness every
Yeah.
day. There was no excitement. I never earned enough money to go anywhere. I wasn't going to go to the places I went with the Royal Navy
Mm,
ever, well, with the way I was going. And I wanted to see the world. And that's why I sold everything. I sold everything I owned and went to America. And that was brilliant. I really enjoyed that. I met lots of lovely people, mostly American Navy, funnily enough. And it gave me that freedom as well, because I had no support network out there, you
right.
know. Um, and it was me on my own with what I had. And that
Yeah.
I'd never had, when you're on the dole, you just wait for the next dole money, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Where when I was in America, you couldn't do that. There was
Mm,
nowhere to sign on in America.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
literally had what I had. And I loved it. I had fun. It was a different kind of atmosphere, a different kind of place. I mean, I walked around the city every day. I lost weight, believe it or not, for America, because I was literally rationing myself, making sure I wasn't spending money, so that when I got to the military, I was there. I was a little bit fit and I was ready, and I had a bit of a mental clear out in America to prepare myself for where I was going, and because what I realized that it was going to be the start of my life. It
Good.
was going to be yeah, and it had to be.
Right. Excellent. So now you've got through the first week of training,
Hmm.
and what's your second week looking like? And what's the attrition rate of the people? How many joined as recruits? Approximately.
I think, if I remember correctly, there was about 80
Right.
people in my entry.
Eight, eight,
Uh,
80.
Zero, I think. I think it was 20 in each, and there was four. Yeah, I think it was 80. Um, don't quote me on that. It was
Yeah, yeah,
22
yeah.
years
It's
ago.
it's just to give an idea.
Uh, but I remember all of us in the quadrangle. Wonky berets all round, polished beret badges, creases everywhere. All the right creases, of course. But I remember looking around, and they'd assigned class leaders and mess leaders and deputy leaders, and you sort of look around you, and it was about, and then they started getting to the teamwork. They were essentially building you as a class, not as a class, but as a team.
Yeah.
And then slowly you sort of saw the people who didn't put the effort in. They weren't going to make their beds, which didn't help the team. We all got punished.
Yeah.
It was the old school. God forbid. I mean, I don't know. I doubt they do it anymore. But Christmas trees. Your beds would be outside with the counterpanes around them. It'd been raining, and you'd gone to do your sport. Come back. You go into the PT, come back, and because the PO didn't like someone's bed, they just lampposted the whole thing or put all your stuff in the middle, so you all had to sort your stuff out within 10 minutes and get it all shipshape.
Yeah.
It was that building that trust. But surely the people who weren't putting their all in started to dwindle. They were walking to the bus stop over the road at HMS Raleigh, and slowly but surely that team cohesion started to happen. We all started to help each other. I remember a lovely Scottish lassie on my course, Millsy. She was brilliant. She put her all in. And I remember us on the last day. I know I've skipped to the end, but you had to run everywhere. And before we couldn't do it. It was awful. We were all blowing out, but now we were just running everywhere and it was just so nice to see that kind of gradual improvement. But by the second week, do not have a clue. I think that's when we moved into our rooms. I remember being an ocean mess. That's what my mess was called. And then sort of like slowly but surely as it built, the third week we started drill. And then we started getting wooden SA80s to practice drill with.
Right.
Then the next class joined next door, the couple of weeks behind, and we made friends with them. And, late night gas mask pillow fights and all that stuff, old school stuff. But it was fun. It was fun supporting each other, all sitting outside, polishing each other. So if someone was better at polishing shoes than the other person, they would maybe iron their shirts for them to say thank you because they were better. It was that trust that that community that I had yearned for when I was in that small town. Doing that.
The bartering system. You're good at this, and I'm good at that. So let's change. Yeah, that's good. And it's about watching each other's back, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. It's that trust.
And rather than one-upmanship, it's how we're going to get through this together as a team.
As a team. And that's the thing. It's like, I think the ultimate goal was being guard for your passing out parade. We didn't win. We came second, but we chased. I remember I was in Pelu division at the time. At the time it was Pelu division. With a lot of good people, and we were against Cunningham, the Cunningham division. We chased them. We were like, honestly, it was like Man City and Liverpool all the way to the end of the season. We chased them all the way. And there were points where we thought, oh, we're going to overtake them and we're going to get this. And unfortunately we didn't, but having that competitive streak as well, which again, I think is slowly disappearing at the moment from a lot of places, and having that competitive was brilliant. They won. Sorry, go ahead.
They won what? They won narrowly.
They won the guard. They won a lot of things. They won.
Right.
So, but we weren't unhappy that they won. We were congratulatory to our fellow entrants, and we chased them the whole way. And I remember the chief, who was in charge of them, coming up to our class saying, "You've given us a run. You gave them all a run for their money. You've done absolutely wonderful." And I it's the instructors. I still remember the instructors. My instructor was brilliant. He was Smith. He was brilliant. And PO Baker on the drill square. Well, he's probably not a chief PO anymore, but all those people, you remember them because of the impact that they had. That I remember Baker used to scream at us. He used to call me facials because every time I got something wrong, I go, they didn't care. They wanted you to succeed. They didn't care if you were hurt or upset. They wanted you to succeed.
Yeah.
And I think I hope that's still there. I really do. I think though like we talk about with social media and mobile phones, and I sound like a right old but I hope that's not lost. I really do.
And that's interesting because, but I suppose when you joined 2001, the social media wasn't in the position that it is now, was it?
No. I mean, I think it was 2004, 2005 that the social media really took off with Facebook and, my God, MySpace and all those things.
Yeah.
And
So you would have seen that change over then. That's interesting. How do you think that brought together or divided the Navy? Commenting from a submariner's point of view.
Oh, sorry. Repeat the question. Sorry, Demi.
Yeah. Do you know when the social media changed? So you were in before, but you were also in afterwards, weren't you? Once it had started. So what change did you see, if any?
During my time, I didn't see much. Do you know why? Because I think we still had that kind of old school mentality. What happened ashore stayed ashore. What happened on the boat stayed on the boat. What happened in the base stayed on the base. Yeah, some things maybe, if anyone looks on my Facebook, they'll see pictures of me dressed as a bird, a woman at the bar, because we all went out on stag do's, and that's, and, this was back in, but now, I mean, I think that, I saw a great post today on LinkedIn where a PO engineer was complaining about the lack of support that he was receiving from his leadership, and a commander of, I think he was one of the commanders at Dartmouth, responded to him saying, "This should not be like this. You need to, here's my name, write me an email." And he was taken back that someone was taking notice, but that's the power of social media now. I mean, we've got we've got HMS Collingwood, Vivian Block condemned. We've seen all the Facebook pages about Vivian Block and the recruits complaining about the state of affairs there, and there's a different mentality towards social media in the military now.
In what way?
And different. I think the military is very visible now. I think everywhere's very, very, very visible now. And I think that it's important that we remember that everything can be filmed. I mean, we've had, the Black Lives Matter marches, and things like that. These are all social media is everywhere, and it's such a force of good in the world, I think, as well. But it has but then it's got a very touch of bad as well. It can be abused. I mean, we've had Mr. Trump in recent years. But in regards to the military, I think when I was in, it wasn't used. It was used just to promote jollies and oh, look how great a time I'm having, and so and so's getting married, and also it was used to keep in contact with oppos who leave. I'm leaving, lads. It's been fun. I'm on Facebook if you need me. And I still use it for that. I'm still I'm not on Facebook or Instagram that much, but I still use it to contact old colleagues or groups as well.
So thank you for that. So it is interesting that the social media can be a good force, but it can also be a not so good force as well, and depending on how it's used. And of course, without the platforms, we wouldn't be having this conversation, and it wouldn't be going out in a podcast. And the purpose of the podcast, like we've discussed, is for the greater good. Because I know that we're going to get stuff out of this for you, the listener, that is going to give you some top tips about things. And the aim and objective is to, if there's one nugget that we can bring to light during this podcast, I mean, that's job done, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I've been where a lot of people have been. And one of the things about, LinkedIn is the main area that I'm on, and it is the first line of contact for a lot of veterans who are leaving, and also those who are left. Those who have left right now. There's a lot of redundancies going on. There's a lot of people without jobs. There's a lot of people looking for that work, and to all those people, I really hope you find something, because it's you deserve it. You really do.
And one of the things is as well, because we're going to be coming on a bit later, because we'll so that's why you got to stay tuned, because we're going to have some great tips. Now the fact is that what I've discovered, and it's quite encouraging really, because now years ago, like take me for instance, and probably you as well. I came out. What did you do in the army? Well, I was a combat engineer, physical training, real off bomb disposal. And then people would think, well, we can't use any of that in civilian employment, and yet that's not entirely true. So what I've noticed now is there's a bridge now being made when people are writing their LinkedIn profiles that actually translates it into civvy speak, if you like.
Yeah, definitely. There is a big wall of translation needed between what you do in the military to what you do in civvy street. Now, you might be lucky to be applying to a job where the person who's recruiting you is a veteran and understands every bit of everything you're saying. But then this would be the first piece of advice that I'll say is assume that no one knows anything about you. They don't. And I think that one of the things about translation is, I'll give you an example. I had a chat with a chap who he's been in the army for 36 years. He's an infantryman. How does he he's done operations all over the world, but he's done nothing else. How does he translate that? Well, you've been in command of several men or several groups or several teams in high pressure areas, trying to to achieve targets and deadlines, strict deadlines. Those kind of. I mean, that's a very basic one. But but in his speak, Op Herrick, 9 months fighting the Taliban. In the middle of nowhere, we're armed with an SA-80 and a bit of ammo. That's but to me, that's someone who's led in pressurized environment and tried to maintain morale in trying to keep people going, to achieve targets, to achieve deadlines, and to get everyone home safe. Well, actually, that's your target, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's interesting. I always chuckle when I've seen CVs in the past. They say works well under pressure, can work as an individual or a team member, and I think, right, okay. So how does that translate then into what you do? Whereas that guy, as soon as you said infantry, 32 years service, I know what sort of stuff. So that's a great point, that actually assume no one or everyone or no one knows anything about you, because
you never know. But also it's the public perception as well. I mean, I think that right now we've got Department of Veteran Affairs that with Johnny Mercer, who's leading that team there. They are trying their best to bring up the opinion of veterans or armed service leavers. It's whatever you want to be called. I know some people don't want to be called veterans. They want to be called armed forces leavers or service leavers. They are really trying at the moment to promote what a veteran is to employers. Hence why we've got the covenant, we've got the employee recognition scheme. We've got all these items going, being thrown out there, and Johnny and the team are Mr. Mercer are trying their best to try and make sure that employees know what they're getting. And what are they getting? They're getting disciplined, hardworking, trained individuals who will come into their business. I think, though, it's a learning curve as well for these employees, because they need to learn how to manage and employ veterans.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that is the biggest mindset for anyone who's coming out. It's like, when you are going to be managed by someone who has no idea of where you come from, assume they're going to, they're not going to get it right, but it's not their fault. I make it sound like you speak in a different language, and it's not meant to be like that, but it is different.
And the fact is, they've got a responsibility to say, look, if you want to get the best out of me, this is maybe the way you want to look at it.
Completely. And I've worked with a lot of veterans. My first role outside of the military was a lot of veterans. We literally, it was with Fujitsu, and it was just full of veterans, and
Yeah.
you know, lovely people, amazing setup, but the banter was still there, the way we worked was still there, and football at lunchtimes,
Yeah. Yeah.
things like that, and it was wonderful. And a good mentality as well, on time, shirt, tie,
Yeah.
looking the business, ready to perform for the day, and
Good.
and work hard, play hard mentality as well, which was great.
Fabulous.
Unfortunately, they were all gooners, but can't all be perfect. But that's the
Gooners,
thing.
just explain that term for anyone
Oh,
who's
so anyone who doesn't understand what a gooner is, they are Arsenal fans. We don't like Arsenal fans, apart from if you're an Arsenal fan. But that kind of banter now, it's still lovely to have. I miss that mess mentality. I think that's one of the things I miss, and that disappears in Civvy Street. It's not the same. Unfortunately, it's not. But like I said, if you go to work for a company that has a lot of veterans, that doesn't need to change, and it doesn't sometimes.
No.
So,
yeah. So thank you for that. So now, when you joined, going back to your military training at HMS Raleigh, had you already been chosen to be a submariner, or did that come later?
No, I volunteered straight away. That was so. Before I joined, I volunteered for a submariner. At the time, they were crying out for submariners. Well, they're always crying out for submariners. I think they're still crying out for them now. And I wanted to be. I chose to be a communicator because it said something about IT, and I had done IT for quite some time. You don't touch it in those days they didn't have hardly any IT on board. I was at HMS Raleigh for quite a while because of the training pipeline that I had. So I finished my 8 weeks basic training, passed out there, and then I went back to do my seamanship because my branch was classed as a seamanship branch.
Right.
Sniggers aside, it was about knots and everything else, just tying knots and throwing ropes, and it wasn't my thing. But that was 4 weeks, and afterwards I had to wait for my course, and my course wasn't starting for another 4 months. So I went into a holding squadron called HMS Nelson with a load of other submariners waiting for their courses. And again, it was like a little crew. We went out together, we hid together, we did work together. And I worked at the armory, which wasn't really work. I literally worked in the morning, played squash in the afternoon. I was out drinking with the lads by 3.
Nice job.
It was a brilliant job. And then I went to HMS Collingwood to do my trade training. And that was in Portsmouth. And again, nice people, had a good class. Met one of my best friends in the Navy, Dave Cullen, who's still friends with me today. It was just it was such a weird trip. And then I met loads of people on the way who I had eventually served with, and did the submarine escape tank in HMS Dolphin, which is now no longer. It was quite sad.
What goes on in that? Because, by the way, with the greatest respect for submariners, I know a few submariners like yourself, and I think you're a bunch of nutters, really.
We are,
and I know that you make similar comments about the army for different reasons, and it's great banter. So, what on earth possesses you to live in a big tin can?
Well, let me get it straight. I didn't actually go on a submarine for the first 2 years of my career.
Right. Okay.
I didn't go. I mean, we didn't even get to go on one. We just did all the training. I mean, I joined in 2001. 2002. Yeah, I didn't get on a submarine until late 2002. I didn't get on a submarine. So yeah, just under 2 years. No, just over a year. Sorry, God, my maths is terrible today. I think what it was. I think some people can do it, some people can't. And that is with any job, but I think people have this perception of what submarines are, and they're bloody massive pieces of kit. They're massive, you know. I mean, we have Vanguard bombers that are massive, I mean, you go inside them, that you can stand up, you know. And I was on my first submarine was HMS Sovereign. I mean, they are Swiss Shore class boats. They're very old. They hardly ever left the wall because they kept on breaking down. And you know, that was to be honest, that was a dark time for me in the Royal Navy.
How come?
I was based in fact, I got sent to Scotland to Faslane. I didn't want to go there. I wanted to be on a Trafalgar class submarine, and I got put on HMS Sovereign. I didn't gel with the crew at all. It wasn't their fault. For some reason, just didn't gel with the crew. Didn't feel like I belonged. I found it very difficult to settle. I think as well, they were way undermanned, and I was 1 and 2 duties, things like that. It wasn't a pleasant environment, and funnily enough, a submarine called HMS Triumph pulled alongside before they went on a deployment, and my old instructor Ronnie Regan was on there, and he saw me, and we went for a coffee, and I told him everything. And I remember him pointing at me, going, "Oh no, I trained you for war. I will not have you sitting there crying. I will sort this out." And within 2 weeks, I'd got a draft order to Triumph to work with him.
Right.
And it was amazing because I literally packed my bags. I was gone, went down to Plymouth, and within 3 weeks, I was flying out to Diego Garcia in the middle of the Indian Ocean to go and join HMS Triumph. And
yeah, go on.
And it was the best experience of my life. Friends for life. Best. I mean, it was brilliant. I really had landed. It was where I wanted to be. It was where I saw the Navy being.
So talk about a valuable conversation.
It was valuable, and I was honest. And that's the thing as well. I think that that honesty, which I think is very much promoted now, that honesty about feelings and mental health, and it was affecting my mental health. I was so depressed. I would go to the drafting office every day and say, "Look, please get me out of here. I can't do this." It wasn't because of family. I had no family to go back to. It was because I just I could not settle. I could not gel with the crew. I hadn't really made any kind of shipmates. That wasn't accepted. I don't know why. It was, I don't know if it was a difference of opinion. I don't know what it was. My RS at the time, Taff Bevan, who's a lovely chap, he tried his best to make me feel at home. He was amazing. He did see it as well, and he tried to help, but it wasn't to be.
So that's interesting, and thank you for being so open and honest. Now, you say you had no family to go back to. What had happened there?
Oh no, nothing. I mean, my family's very weird. My family's very how do I put it, nomadic.
Right, okay.
I was closer to my grandmother, God rest her soul. So of course I had somewhere to go back to, but I didn't look at it as a continual. I liked being where I was. I liked being out and about. Okay. So, you know, and I think as well at that time, military men make a nest, and they tend to make it very well. You know, I shared a room with 3 other guys. One of them went home every weekend. The other guy had a girlfriend in the area, so I had the room to myself every weekend. I'd go out, come back, you know. Yeah. And it was great, you know, in Portsmouth, Plymouth. God, I always get the confused.
No, that's okay. I get that. I get geography mixed up as well, and because it's all sort of a family down that neck of the woods, isn't it? Really, because
that was
Because I spent a lot of time in Weymouth with the portable bridges, Royal Engineers, and Chisel Beach, and all around there, and then Portsmouth, my diver's aptitude, and Plymouth and stuff. So I get it now. So we've got you growing up before the Navy, and maybe your family's a bit nomadic, no real route. Your grandmother was who you kept with. Then you went off because you wanted something different, got your joining papers, joined, complete eye-opener. Then you're dropped in onto a submarine where things are down, challenges. Yeah. And then you just so happened that you're focusing so much on getting out. Then HMS Triumph pulls up alongside, and then you see your former instructor, have a conversation, he gets you out of there. Right, so now you've flown to the other side of the world, or nearly, and what happens now?
Well, to be honest. We went on we did some work out there. We went to Singapore, and for anyone watching, it's an amazing place.
Yeah,
I mean, it was just brilliant. We went to Singapore. We stayed there for 2 weeks. Back then, we got subsistence. You know, they basically gave you cash in hand.
Yeah, I remember.
To feed yourself. And what did you do? You usually used it in other ways. And
it wouldn't be beer tokens by any chance.
Yeah. That's exactly it. I mean, I don't think. I remember this restaurant just around the corner from the hotel where I used to eat every day. It was like $1, and you could eat as much as you want, and it was amazing, you know, because you were always hungover. But it was so nice to be in the world where I wanted it to be. The Navy was, you know, it's the old, coin the phrase, join the Navy, see the world. You know, it was seeing the world, and I had a great time. I mean, Diego Garcia, which is an island in the middle of the Indian Ocean, it's a military island. There's no civilians on there, and it was just amazing. It was beautiful, beautiful tropical island in the middle of nowhere, and I'm sitting with some of my best friends, drinking beer on an empty beach, watching turtles walk up a beach. You know, and it was just amazing. I remember it to this day, and I remember as well, you know, when the boat was transiting through the Malacca Straits at night, and the moon was massive, and the sea and everything. I remember everything about it because it was just exactly where I wanted to be at that time. Yeah. And you know, on the way, and then you know, after Singapore, we came straight home. We did not stop. We steamed all the way home through the Suez Canal, through the Mediterranean, beautiful, and then all the way back, and then we were home, and you know, we got home, and it was just amazing. Just that it'd been September, and we got home in December. And it wasn't that long. I flew out in September, and I was back in December, and I just remember it. I wanted more, and the Triumph was being decommissioned to be refitted next year, the year after. So I stayed on it for another year. But then I grew itchy again. I was like, no, need to get out. So funny enough, a friend of mine on another boat was wanting to spend some more time with his girlfriend. And I said, well, I want to go to sea, and I know that the boat's going to Singapore, so I'd like to be on that boat as well. So I swapped with him, and I flew out to Bahrain, met my new shipmates, and again, friends for life. And you know, HMS Turbulent, which turned out to be my one of my career boats in the Royal Navy, and brilliant crew, brilliant people, and again Singapore, and then I flew back from Singapore, and then I did some short jobs, but it was just, and did some more career training as well, and it was just, I loved it. I was just on the go all the time. I didn't stop. It was brilliant.
That's good. So you see, there's a contrast between the Navy and the military. I remember the sun setting while we're digging a trench in Senalaga. So totally different. But the thing is that the same values are taught, though, aren't they?
Yeah.
About teamwork, how to build with your mates and build a strong team. So even though different settings, still the same sort of values and beliefs. So then you went on, you exchange places with your mate. You flew, you're in Singapore, then you're going to various places. What stage of your career is this now?
So this is what are we on? 2003. So yeah, so that's the end of 2003. So sort of after a while, though, I started to question what I wanted. I got all this experience. I've been, you know, around the world, and I got to a point where I didn't enjoy the branch I was in. Not because I wasn't interested. It was because it didn't test me the way I wanted it. I had no, to be fair, no, I had no interest in it. I take that back. I had no interest in it. You know, but then I looked and thought, well, what is there interesting for me on a submarine? And there wasn't anything. You know, I liked being a submariner, but I didn't like my branch role. So
Right.
I kind of looked at leaving. So when I got back, my mate then transferred with me again, and I went back to Triumph while I was in refit.
Right. Okay.
And I was alongside the wall for a long time. I did some courses, just like, brush up on my maths, a
Yeah.
few
Yeah.
things like that. And I had a girlfriend at the time. Worst thing you can do.
What,
Things were
mix a
going well.
girlfriend with maths or?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that. How many have I got? One, two. No. But
Yeah.
but I then started to look whether the grass was greener. So I asked for a career break, and back then you could.
All right.
Um,
Okay. That's
yeah,
interesting.
and it was before JPA came in, and so I
JPA being,
joint personnel council or something. I can't remember it
yeah,
now.
that's it. Yeah.
So I left. I became an estate agent for
Right.
Foxtons, and my girlfriend at the time left me, unfortunately, and it kind of made me realize that I looked around me and I realized, oh my God, I'm on my own again.
Yeah.
I've got no support again. Um, I was good at my job. Why? Because I was effective. I didn't judge. I supported my team. But then I was like, oh God, I've literally got 9 months to go or 8 months to go, and I'm on my own. And I feel terrible. I've got no one to turn to.
8 months.
Um,
8 months to go before.
I would had to decide whether to go back.
Right. Okay.
So I
Let's
left.
just let's just stop there a minute, right?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Because I want because typical military, right? We just do, oh yeah, so this happened and then that happened and that was it. Right. Let's just rewind
Sure.
just to the process where you think, I've had enough. This isn't making me happy anymore. I like being a submarine. I do not like being in a submarine. It's not using my skills. What sort of thought process did you go through, and what challenges did you face when you're doing that?
Well, looking back on it, I was immature. I I'd gone back to that women and drink kind of idea of having fun. And I don't believe I saw the future implications of what I was doing.
Yeah.
I truly believe if I'd stayed in during that year, one, I would have retained my pension of 75 pension, and I would have probably had a better career, and I probably would have progressed a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But hindsight is a lovely thing. But it didn't happen. And I thought, I'd gone back to that guy who thought he knew better and
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And, but you have to learn. You have to make mistakes to learn.
Mm.
And I didn't really think that. I didn't think, I thought I'll succeed at anything. I'll be
Yeah.
fine. And of course I left, and the job was okay. It wasn't amazing. But when my girlfriend left, I realized I was on my own. And I wasn't, you can call anyone and they can talk to you, but I wanted to be with my friends. I wanted to be on that boat. I wanted to be able to, someone to put your arm around you and go, come on, let's get out of here. Let's go
Yeah.
do something, and there wasn't, I was in the middle of London on my own, and I
how
had
did
no
that?
idea.
How did that feel? And I get what you're saying, because
Mm.
I like the phrase "failure is the feedback for champions," and failure is the food of champions. So now you're on your uppers, and you're feeling a bit cheesed off.
Yeah, I was totally cheesed off. I mean, I think I'd put all my eggs into one basket, thinking this is the one, this is going to be it. Oh, I'll get married, have kids, and you know, but I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't in the mental frame for that, and I think looking back, I wasn't ready for a career either. I didn't really consider a career.
Mm.
I still was in that. I know better. I'll be fine. I'm gonna be a rock star, man. You know, um,
Yeah.
and now looking back, if I could, if we all go back and speak to our younger selves, it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
So but I did it my way,
Yeah.
and it was the wrong way. I made mistakes, and I'm probably going to pay for those mistakes when I'm old because I don't have that cushy, lovely pension anymore. But it's now up to me to make up for those mistakes by working hard and getting better now.
Well, and that's a great point, because you've got that in the back of your mind, haven't you? And like we say in the engineers, build a bridge and get over it. And I've mentioned this pretty much in every podcast. Build a bridge and get over it, improvise, adapt, and overcome. And there's no problem greater than the solution. So you've recognized, right, Jim, that you may have made a few mistakes. You've got this 8 month, 7 month, 6 month, 5 months clock ticking. What's going on in your mind now? Because right, you probably thinking you messed up your life, you messed up your relationship, you made mistakes. Where are you?
Basically, I thought that I can either try and repair this, not by getting back with the girlfriend, but by trying to repair myself. So I moved in with a friend of mine and got a job at a local gas analysis company down the road.
Right.
And I tried my hardest. I tried to find an interest in, I don't know, electrical engineering or anything like that. I tried to take an interest in it. Nothing was there. There was just nothing that really stoked me. It was annoying because I just wasn't in that frame of mind where I could progress myself. I wasn't learning anything new.
So
I
what
was
changed?
stagnant.
Yeah, you see you're stagnant. What changed?
I was that. What changed was I got in my car. I went to Chatham and said I want back in.
Right.
Basically knocking on the door of my ex, going, "Look, I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. Take me back." And I was very lucky. It happened very quickly. Within 3 months, I was back in uniform at Raleigh, and I had to go through a couple of quick courses just to bring me up to speed. And by the end of it, I was back on HMS Turbulent, and I could have hugged it, and I did. I kissed it as I walked on across the brow, and it was good because I realised that you had to. I think one of the biggest changes for me was accepting that this is where I wanted to be. So when I was on duty at 3 a.m, before I was like, "Oh God, this is terrible. Think what I could be doing right now. I could be at the pub, or I could be." Instead of that, I was like, "This is my job. I'm going to do this, do it professionally, and then I'm going to go home, get some sleep, and then I can do all that stuff." I started to process things a lot better. I started to listen more. And one of the biggest influences was to come when I joined a really great department headed by a guy named Dave Smythe. I had guys, Bryn Watkinson, Mike Broadbank, Craig Taylor, Jamie Lawrence, all these guys, brilliant people who we bounced off it. We argued a hell of a lot, but we bounced off each other. We all achieved the task. And, slowly but surely we had Jumper Collins and people like that join us. And, and we started to really grow as, I was on that boat for 4 years, 4 massive years of my life. So I went back in 2007. And the first year, funnily enough, I joined HMS Triumph when it was refit. And my RS at the time, he just basically went, "Listen, you need to get your sea legs back. So we're sending you to sea on a surface vessel, on an aircraft carrier for 6 months." And I went, "What?" And I was he was called Robbie Robinson, the RS at the time. And I went, "Are you joking?" And he went, No, we're sending you to sea for 6 months on a we call them skimmers. Right. So I joined HMS Illustrious for Upper Ryan in 2007. And it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And again, I think the Army have it. You'll have different opinions of each other's regiments. Yeah. We're the same. We have different opinions of skimmers to submariners. There is a silent kind of they couldn't do what we do, and I can do what they do. But it was brilliant. The crew made us feel welcome. We had a guy in charge was called Paul Swaby, and we basically had a great time. We worked really hard, and it was just weird being somewhere where I could walk around. It was like a big office, and going on the jetty, and on the landing platforms as well. It was just an amazing experience. I did diving in Oman,
Wow.
went to Malta, and it was just an amazing experience and lovely people. Again, still in contact with a lot of them as well, and again, just shows that camaraderie that comes from it. And I was sad to leave. We went to India. We flew off from India, and we went to India as well. So I went to Goa, and we worked with the Indian Navy out there as well. What an experience! I mean, it was just exactly what I wanted to do again. I was right back in it, and we flew back, and it's where I met when I flew back, I met my future wife,
Wow.
and then I joined Turbulent again.
So without, because I know we've chatted about this offline, without breaching any classified information, official secrets act, what was it about HMS Illustrious? What was a typical day? Because I know, like people watch Top Gun, and I know it's like soldier. When I'm watching that, and I'm thinking, that doesn't happen, and it's no way. And you always got the critical eye. But at the end of the day, Top Gun is a film. Soldier was a film. So what was it like? And you being a submariner, working with the normal Navy guys, I suppose, or typical?
Yeah, you can call it that. I mean, it was interesting. It's a different world. It was the first time I worked with female colleagues in the military. And to be fair, they were brilliant, and they're not, everyone's the same in uniform, and it really cemented my thoughts on that. But I think a lot of people see Top Gun, and the Americans do it very much differently. But while I was on there, I got to witness, I think it was one of the final landings of the Harrier jets on a Royal Navy carrier.
Wow.
And the captain at the time said, "Oi, Samaritan, tuck in your shirt and come watch this, because you're never going to see it again." And he was right. We sold those to the US Marines. I think it was the year after. But it was a great experience to be on that vessel, because I didn't know how the other half lived. And again, it strengthened my resolve on what the Navy can accomplish and what the armed forces can accomplish. It was a massive unit working together to make it work. It was an enormous piece of equipment, an enormous achievement to keep it afloat. And
so what sort? Because typical, like when I was in, we still had 58 pattern webbing. We got the Combat 95 as well later when I was in the territorial reservists. So what sort of stuff did you have to do? Like, how many times did you have to hit stuff with a hammer to keep it going?
I was lucky that I was. So as submariners, we were advisories. So we went on as advisors. So we got a little room to ourselves, and we did what we did. And we were working with another submarine in the area as well, one of ours, and it was just interesting. I think it would have been different if we were in the same watches as them, but we weren't. We got to run our own routine,
right?
And I don't think it would have worked otherwise, because submariners like to do their own thing, and we felt that we wanted to do that, and because we were part of a submarine advisory team, we had we had senior officers and everyone. We were protected throughout the hill. It was quite nice, but it was just really interesting. I mean, they did classes, presentations. The gym was on the flight areas, and you were working out next to missiles, and things like that. And it was just such an interesting area to go to, and they had a laundrette. They had a guy doing the laundry. That was weird as well. And but I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad I got to experience that.
So how many times? Because I'm sure, and I've had this conversation as well about because we just know as soon as we've got an idea of who we serve with, we've got a pretty good idea of what's happened. Maybe you might be listening to this and not have any military experience. So what sort of stuff, like, did you what sort of close shaves did you get, or on drills or anything like that?
Do you know what? None really. I've been very lucky. I think I think the closest shave I've ever had in the military was when I was in duty in Brest in France on HMS Triumph, just as she was coming in, and we were docked in a very old dock. We're talking, I think it was Second World War or something, but you had to supply a lot of services to the boat, like fresh water and everything else. And because of there was a certain way of lining up our systems alongside. This is probably a very boring story, but we got instructed on how to do it. You know, you have to open it up slowly. You have to open this valve, close this valve, and it lets it pressurize. I can't remember what it was. Needless to say, I was a bit hungover, and I don't think I listened very well. So I was on trot with, I remember it, with Patsy Palmer, a guy called Patsy Palmer, and big lad, and I had to go and open up the fresh water. And he said to me, "You do remember how to do it?" And I went, "Yeah, it's fine. I remember. It's totally fine." Anyway, I didn't remember, so I opened up the valve, and all of a sudden you hear this rumbling, and you hear this, and Owenfrey starts to kind of shake, and he's going, "Switch it off, switch it off." I thought he said, "Turn it up," and I turned it up. Needless to say, there was a massive bang, massive explosion. This hose went flying, missed him by inches, and I basically blown up this whole water pipe area. There's water shooting into the sky, and I'm just standing there going, "Crap." And now I can admit this now, it's quite a few years later. So if the French government are listening, I take no responsibility. But one of the engineers on board, Sharky Board, bless him, he covered for me by saying, "Oh, I found a I think it was a nut or something." He just said it was worn away, so it was going to happen anyway. And he looked at me and went to say, "No, it wouldn't have done. You totally caught that one up." But that's the kind of thing, you know. That's the only near miss I've had. Sorry, that's a bore.
Well, we won't hold that against you. And
no, that's the only. That's the.
I'm sure there's worse things that have happened at sea. In fact, recently the guy put the wrong chemical in, didn't he, for the desalination on that ship?
Oh, did he? I haven't heard that one. I haven't heard that one. I mean, to be fair, you know, there's been a lot of things that have happened on board. You know, there's always, you know, a piece of machinery smoking, and of course we set the alarms off. We have atmosphere monitoring, you know, and a lot, and unfortunately we've had accidents on board submarines where we've lost good people.
And how does that affect morale? Sad incident.
Yeah, I mean, Tylus was the big one. Tina McCann and Tony Untrod. You know, that was a very. I knew Tinny back in training. He was a lovely chap from Birmingham, and it was sad. It was just it's one of those, you don't expect it to happen to people or your people you know. And you know, I've got friends who were on that vessel, and you know, they did such an amazing job, and they tried everything, and they're still amazing people today. You know, I'm still friends with a lot of them, and you know, it's sad, and it's, you know, these submarines are not safe things, and but it's annoying when you do everything right. Something always goes, and something does go wrong. But on the grand scheme of things, you know, I'm glad I joined the submarine service, because another reason I joined the submarine service, I wanted to work with professional people who I knew would have my back, and that was one of the biggest reasons I joined. Yeah, I'm just proud that I did it.
Good.
I'm proud. I wear my dolphins with pride still today.
And thank you for serving, of course.
Oh, thank you.
So you've flown back. You met your wife, right?
Yeah.
Was that love at first sight, or did she just blow you out the first time, or what happened?
Oh no, she blew me out the first time. No, yeah, it was hard to get. No, it was definitely a long, but no, it was great. Her name was Rachel. She was an amazing woman, and mother of my daughter Molly, and she was an amazing woman, and we were together all through my turbulent years, as I call them, not because they were bad, because I was on HMS Turbulent. And
good.
Yeah, but I had a good time on. I was very lucky to be on the boat that I was on. We supported each other. I was glad that my friends were with me, and you know, we went on a workup, which is basically training. It's training to make sure the boat is ready to be in operations, and that was the turning point actually, where the boat for me on a professional scale, because the leadership team changed, and we had a really pardon me, I'm trying to swallow. I might need some water in a minute.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. While you do that, I'll just ask you another question.
Yes.
Rachel, was she serving or civilian?
No. Oh no. She was very much a civilian.
Right. Okay.
And but she was a veterinary nurse, so she was a registered veterinary nurse, and it was a I mean, again, it was. I think in everyone's military life, you sort of look at the chapters in your life.
Yeah.
And it was a wonderful chapter in my life, and that time was a wonderful time. You know, I was on an amazing boat.
Where did you sail? Where did you sail in her?
Oh, unfortunately, not that much. We did work up. I went to Lane a couple of times, and Portugal. Yeah, I did go to Portugal. That was fun.
Right.
But like I said, you know, it was about work up 2008, that the leadership team changed on HMS Turbulent. And that was the turning point for me, because the boat became this entity, this community, this partnership. With the change of the command team, we had the XO Gareth Jenkins joined, and the captain was Ryan Ramsey. And for a lot of the men on board that submarine, that was a turning point for them, where they realized they were in the right place at the right time, because the boat just became an amazing unit, where the captain brought a sort of a mentality, was, you know, your boat, your mates, we work together, we get through these things. And Gareth Jenkins as well was just, he's kind of the sergeant major. He was, although I would never call him, because I think he's a captain now, but he managed to maintain a level of professionalism on that boat that was unsurpassed. And, you know, along with my boss, Dave Smythe, and other, the Chops TS, the Chops S, you know, all these people, and the coxswain as well, Paddy Parsons, an amazing man. Again, maintained the morale of the crew, maintained the crew itself, was amazing people. And all of a sudden, we had this great leadership team. It listened to us. It fed down information. People knew what they needed to do, when they needed to do it. People didn't think, they knew. They worked together, and you know, the crew became an entity, a force to be reckoned with. And I do believe, and probably every boat thinks this, I do believe we were the best boat from 2008 to 2012. Without a shadow of a doubt, we were the best boat in the fleet, because we achieved things. So, yeah.
So now you've rejoined, you've landed on your feet, everything's going great. You're on HMS Turbulent, best part of your life, met your wife, things are going great, 2012, and then what happens, right? So you remember such a great team, right? Everything's going right, and then what?
I decided to change it.
Right. Okay.
So I had an interest in going into the medical branch, and it'd been around 2010, and I'd applied to change. And I won't lie, at the time I wasn't the fittest. I was struggling to pass fitness tests.
Right.
But Dave Smythe, again, really good guy, he said, right, you want to transfer branches, you need to get fit. So I got pushed, and I think it was my mate Jamie Lawrence. He signed me up for the Plymouth Half Marathon, the bastard. If I'm allowed to swear on this. And
well, yeah, you are now, of course.
Yeah. And I went, okay. And it was
so it was really enthusiastic the way you.
It was a really enthusiastic. Okay. And so I got fit for that, and before I knew it, I was passing my fitness test. I was happy, and then my branch transfer came in, and it was 2011. In fact, sorry. So 2011, I got my transfer, and I left HMS Turbulent to start my medics course at Keogh Barracks in Aldershot with the army and the
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah, and and off I went, and it was again, good class. I ended up the first time I worked with with Royal Marines, and what a bunch of characters they were.
yeah.
I think, and the chief as well was brilliant, and the whole staff. Rab Butler was our chief, an amazing guy. Really tried hard to protect us from the army regimen. The army, unfortunately, the camp at the time was run by a major from the para unit.
Right.
He did not like Marines at all, and our Marines gave him a reason to hate him, basically, hate them basically. But they were really good. I mean, this is the thing as well. Working with Marines showed me how professional they are, and how dedicated they are to the core. And I would never say we compare them with the submarine service, but because they'll kill me. But
Well,
it,
you almost said it, so I think there might be a price on your head now.
there is now. But no, I found working with them was very enlightening. They pushed themselves to get where they need to go. They pushed themselves more, but they didn't just go 100%. They went 200. You know, if they felt that the run wasn't hard enough, they'd stick another load of weight on just to make sure that they could feel the pain.
Yeah.
And things like that. I was like, oh God, they're mad. But again, professionals, consummate professionals the whole way. And they led each other and worked together. And it was, if one of them was having a problem with an exam, they'd all stay together. They'd all work together. And it was very interesting. But yeah, I mean, I did really well in my studies. Again, for me, that was an introduction to studying again. So I studied hard for that to pass that course, and I did. And I, not that it means anything now. I came top of the class, and
well done, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
How much did that cost you?
A lot. I got a little medal that says,
"Oh, that's great! Yeah,
top of the class."
So it was worth a couple of £1,000 then.
It looks like it's been stolen from a pub that's had it since the '60s, but it's fine. But I then went and did my medic time in Portsmouth, so I went back to Portsmouth again.
Right. Okay.
And I loved it again. Being in the sick bay again, brilliant people, and I've been very lucky in the latter stage of my naval career to meet people the way I do. And I worked in a sick bay that was full of brilliant people. A lot of people have just come back from Afghanistan.
Right. How did that affect you, and how did it impact the guys, men and women, that were injured?
I think from my
without
I think from my experience of dealing with those who have come back from conflict who are injured, I think a lot of them are just happy to be there with you. And most of the time, we had a physio or a service there, and they come in, they get massages, or they get the physio sessions.
Yeah.
And they were just full of laughs, because, to be fair, they're home, and they don't let you see that. That was a time where where they were just building the rehabilitation centre in Plymouth.
Right.
That wasn't yet ready, and a lot of these people weren't getting the help they needed just yet. I mean, the military were trying, but they weren't there yet. And I mean, now the facility is amazing. I hope that it is doing wonders. And but from my point of view, the lads and ladies that I work with that were there were lucky. Not they say they're lucky. They were medics who had to deal with those firsthand, and I felt I looked up to them because I hadn't had that experience of being in a war zone or seeing that kind of injury or dealing with that. There were people that were saying they were on a helicopter. The guy would run off and he'd just disappear in a plume of red smoke, things like that. And you'd be like, my God, You know, I couldn't imagine being in that environment. And one of the LMAs, Chris Jones, he'd been there as well, and you know, he didn't talk about it much, but you know, you could tell he worked very hard over there as well, and you know, a lot of them did, and but they came back and they were, you know, lovely people, and some of them were very good to talk to as well. But it was the experience that they passed on, that
Yeah.
fact that they were, you know, that knowledge, that knowledge that they brought with them, the medical knowledge, you know, give it over, you know. And it was, but it was the mutual respect, and again, great team, great going out with them and having fun with them, and you know, it was a good place, really good place.
And I remember at Woolwich, where the barracks is, they had the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, and that was just purely military. And back after the Falklands, they developed some of the best nurses, doctors, surgeons with plastic surgery and all sorts of things, because we had to get those sorts of skills. So I suppose then this medical centre have become the centre of excellence, then, I would imagine.
Not really, no. It was a great sick bay. I mean, it was a sick bay. It was just generally the wear and tear. Everyone comes in, triage, everything. But I think it was good because the people wanted to help each other. We were training each other. We were helping each other. We were coming up with ideas together. We were doing our task books together, writing up everything. So, I mean, it wasn't a specialized area, but it was good for me because it meant that I got to work with some of my service colleagues. I got to work with the submarines. You know, it was good for me, but then, you know, after that, it was all over, and I had to go to HMS Sultan for it's all training. I swear to God, I went to go do my radiation protection training at HMS Sultan at Rutherford Block. Again, where I met one of my closest friends in the military, Mikey Burns. It was so nice these guys had just come out basic training. They'd never been on a submarine before in their lives. And it was so nice to be with them and sort of like it was nice to help them or give them an idea of what they were doing.
So then you become the sort of go-to person then.
Granddad, yeah. And it was, you know, we had a PO and a leading hand, PO Cowley and LMA French who were training us. You know, it was a hard course because I hadn't done maths in ages, and we also had to do all these complex equations. But once we were through that, you know, we got a civilian qualification on it, you know, and after that, that's it. You know, you're a medic submariner now, and that's when you start going to your boats, and it sort of dawned on me that I hadn't got a boat to go to the first time in God knows how many years, and all the guys were getting their submarines, and apart from me, and I went back to HMS. I think I went back to HMS Triumph, which was at the time in refit, and I was just sitting there, and nothing happened. Nothing was happening. And in the end, they got extended. I said, I can't be on a refit boat for this long. So I got poached by a guy called Dean Reese, and I went to HMS Torbay and worked there. And that wasn't at sea either. I was like, oh, God. But yeah, HMS Triumph, and eventually beat it to go to sea. So I ended up going to sea on HMS Triumph for a couple of weeks. And by then, I'd had my daughter, and everything was going well. I was about to get promoted, and unfortunately, the worst happened, and that was my wife had a fit, and it was discovered that she had brain cancer, and that's when the walls started to come down. And
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, it's
Thank you.
But
thank you for sharing that.
No, it's part a parcel of everything you go through. You know, there are highs, there are lows, there are damn straight awful times, but it really showed me that I was right to be in the military. I was supported by my boat, by my crew. I was supported by the Royal Navy as a whole. They were amazing. Right. The Royal, my boat got me off straight away and said, "Look, go home. You know, spend time with your wife. Don't come in unless we call you." And they never called me. Right. My colleagues were brilliant. My My other MA, Phil Perkin, was just brilliant with me. He really supported me. And yeah, and they, the Navy got my daughter into nursery. They got a sponsorship so she would get care.
How old was she?
She was 8 months old.
Right. Okay.
And then we got offered a treatment at Hillingdon, which is near Northwood, and the Navy transferred me to Northwood Sick Bay, just like that. They paid for us to move. They moved us into a house. They got everything set up. They made sure that we had accessibility, like everything was put in for my wife. They were amazing. The sick bay I went to were just absolutely lovely people again. And I was really, really lucky to have that, because again, I think so going forward, since leaving, I've actually met people who hated being in the military so much they don't actually talk about it. They don't want to be associated with it, and they don't want to even discuss it with you, that you were in the military. And I find that so weird, because the support I got was second to none. It was literally, if we needed to move, or hotels, or anything like that, we just needed to make one phone call. And the fact that I had my chief MA, Phil, was just brilliant. He Phil Coates, again, he was like, don't come in unless you're called. And they were brilliant. And we had the local pastoral care workers were brilliant. Liz Swan, who's now outside, she was great. And they got us they just, like, one day they turned up and they realized that I was washing the dishes by hand, and they said, no, you can't do that. And then the next day a dishwasher arrived. It was small things like that, because they didn't want me to be on my own. They didn't want me to think, because a military man or a military person is, I can do this all on my own. I can fine. I can do this. I'm dedicated. I'm trained. I can do this. Don't. And it was just trying to say, look, you're not on your own. You are supported.
And isn't it interesting that, and you say you're so lucky. I mean, I've examined that word, and I've broken it down into an acronym: labor under correct knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Because I would imagine if we did a snapshot of your career anywhere along what you've told us so far, right, there would have been times when you were being a little bit of a devil or uncooperative, and then there would have been times where you were ticking all the right boxes and doing the right stuff. And I would imagine that, using your phraseology, I bet you during the times where you were ticking the boxes and being cooperative, you were a lot luckier than when you were being a little
shitbag.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for finishing that.
No, it's all right. I think, though, again, I think that the biggest thing that kind of, it was a good thing and a bad thing, was my coping mechanism. The military have a way of, when everything's going wrong, we are still smiling with a cup of tea in our hands. Going, oh well, don't worry, it will blow over in a minute. It's only a bomb, old boy. And it's very much the same I felt with my wife's illness. I was optimistic the whole time. I said, don't worry, good things are coming. Don't worry, we're going to get to the other side of this. Don't worry, it's all going to be all right. And continuing, I mean, bear in mind, bless her, she went into a kind of remission in October, and then a month later she was she went through a horrible bout of radiotherapy, and then we thought she was fine. She went back to work, and then bang, it was back again, and she went really quick. I'd say she went quick. It took her a lot. The difference was horrible.
Right.
And it was slowly then.
What year was this?
This was 2016. So
right.
So slowly. So she'd done 3 years of trying to repair herself. She'd done so well, and I think we got about 6-7 months. I can't remember. I think it was about 6-7 months of remission, until one day she was at work and she fainted, and then they scanned her again and it started to grow back. And we started to do other treatments such as chemotherapy and things like that, and then they realised it wasn't working. And I think it was April that she couldn't walk, and then by May she was put into a home, which was hard for me, definitely, because I thought I could cope. And it had a lot of effect on my little daughter. And then the Navy, but what I have missed is a very big thing that happened in 2015 was that I got bowel cancer in 2015. I don't do things in halves, Joe.
Right. So I mean, yes. So really, it's not looking good at this point, is it?
No. So 2015, I went with my friend Lauren to the doctors, and they said, "Look, you've got cancer in your bowel." They cut it, and I just went, "No, just cut it out and let's crack on." Literally, just cut it out. Let's crack on. I don't have time for this. My wife's ill. I don't have time for this. So I went in, they cut it out, and I had a bag on. I had that on for 6 months, but I was lucky. Touch wood. The doctor said, I was a 1 in a million chance. I didn't need any chemotherapy or radiotherapy. They got the lot. They literally cut it out and it's done.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Yeah. I'm still under observations now, but and then and since then it's just been non-stop with the wife. And then she so in going back to her, I mean, we moved her to our hometown of Tunbridge Wells, Groombridge. To a lovely place called Burswood, which sadly is no longer open. And she passed away in the September. Between then, I'd managed to. The Navy had decided to call me in to see if I should be medically discharged from the Royal Navy. So in July, just before we were leaving for Groombridge, I had a medical board, and again, it was amazing. The captain who was doing it was very honest and very, very, very civil towards me. He said he appreciated that my injuries I'd recovered from, but due to my wife's situation, that he wanted to give me an option that basically said my career would go nowhere because of my cancer and everything. And the fact that I had to look after my daughter as a single parent. I would never go to sea. I would never go on a submarine again. I could stay where I was, but I would probably never get promoted, and everything else. And I sort of went, what's the other option? And he said, well, look, we can medically discharge you, which would mean I'd get some money, basically. And I had to think hard but then I realized that I couldn't watch boats leave. I couldn't not be with the lads. I couldn't watch boats leave, and I didn't want to have that. Not that I would resent my daughter at all, but
no,
I'd be like, I just want to go. I want to go with them. They're going to America, or they're going over there, or they're going to go Schwab somewhere. I want to be on it. I couldn't do that. I couldn't be that guy. I couldn't be sitting there going, "This is great." It would destroy me.
And what year was this?
This was 2016. So
still 2016, right?
Still 2016, yeah. So I got said, fine, I'll leave. So I signed the dotted line, and I was discharged 2 months later. Was it 3 months later? I think it was 3 months later, in August. But so happens that I was a very proactive person. I did some resettlement courses, quite like straight away, mainly in IT. And while I was there, I started to get used to the way that I did the CTP. And again, it's really good the way it's done, but it didn't teach me everything I needed. It was very formulated. The CVs were to me, they were very stagnant. They were very square. They didn't shout to me. Like, if I read that, I'd be like, oh God, this guy's so boring.
Yeah.
So that's where I came up. That's where I didn't come up with it. Yes, this is where I invented. No, this is where I learned to translate. And funny enough, it was a chap from a company called FDM. Everyone knows who they are, but they're a company that give courses in Senior. I believe his name was Will. And he was talking about CVs and how they're written, and how he sort of like, he he basically went through what he did in the army. I think he flew helicopters, but it was the way he was describing his roles and how they translated to today's workplace. I was intrigued, absolutely intrigued, because he wasn't going, yes, and me and the boys, we then did this. He was going, I was working with complex machinery every single day. I was rich with cartography, and the way he described it, the translation of what he did into terms that we understood. I was like, I'm listening to this. And afterwards, I rewrote my CV. I didn't follow the resettlement pattern. I didn't follow their guidance at all. I mean, some of it was good, like the LinkedIn section of the course was all right. It had to reflect, but it wasn't what I believed was going to get me a job. So I did my new CV, and then I applied for a couple of jobs, and nothing came of it. But then I got a call by this chap. He said, look, I found your CV on this. I think he found it on a website or a mail. I think it was when you could attach it to LinkedIn.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And he said, I like the way you've written that. Would you come in for a chat? And I was like, yeah, sure. I'm happy to help. And it ended up being an interview for a job with Fujitsu. And I remember him going, so how much do you want? And I went, oh, this amount. And he went, hold on, can you just go out there? Don't undersell yourself. Put it up by 10 grand next time he comes in. He came in and went, this amount. And he went, yeah, that's fine. Because he saw that I was still kind of in that post-military shock. I didn't know my worth. And I think that's another lesson. Know your worth before you go into these places.
Yeah.
If they're interviewing you and you've spent, so many times you get on the application form, what is your expected salary? All right. Write what you expect. If they're interviewing you, it means they're interested. It means you're in the room. They're not going to go, well, is that the salary you want? Because you can just go, well, you've wasted my time and yours. Do you want me or not? And because you do have some control in those rooms, So again, going back to that translation, it was because I translated that CV into it's not an exciting read, but because it's spoken a language that people go, wow, they want to read it. I put what I can do at the top. Oh, we can do project management. Oh, look, he knows how to, he's been a leadership, he's into leadership, And funnily enough, I took out that can work as a loner as part of the team. I took that out, and I put can manage a team, can lead a team. And and I strongly feel this way. I feel that any military personnel can lead a team, no matter if you're only in for 4 years, because you've seen some of the best and worst leadership you'll ever see in those 4 years.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen what bad leadership, you need another couple of years, because I've seen in my naval career, I saw brilliant leadership, and I saw damn right ugly leadership.
Yeah.
And I was, and that is I've been able to carry that experience and go, right, I know what to look for,
Yeah.
And so
thank you so much for that. We're covering. We're still not finished. I mean, and I know we could talk for days because your story's amazing. So we've touched on your time before the military, your time during the military. What challenges did you face? And you've had a few, right?
Only a few.
Yeah, I would like to touch on something that is very important. And I know what's going to go through your mind when I ask this question. You'll say, I've not been. Because the question is, what's the secret of your success?
I think it's how you measure success. I think an individual measures success in different ways. So my success, I'm still here. I'm still breathing. I've got 2 beautiful children and 1 on the way. I've been able to build myself back up from the disappointment of having a career gone, a wife gone, nowhere to live. And I've managed to, build myself back up to a point where I can hold my head high. And I may not be the highest earning person. I may not have a Bentley in my drive. I don't care. I'm not one of those people. I don't measure success by that. I measure success by the fact that I can still hold a conversation with people such as yourself. You know, I can still be interested in other people. I'm not inward. I do not consider myself above anyone. And I measure my success based on the fact that I'm still here. I still speak to so many people, some I've known for years and some I'll meet tomorrow. And I still hold interest in everyone. I really do measure success in the people you meet. And I've met some wonderful people. I'll give you an example. You know, since I started at Tech in January, and I've met the wonderful people at Lupin, which is a wonderful company run by two Royal Marines, ex-Royal Marines, sorry, which helps monitor people's mental health in workplace. And again, brilliant people, entrepreneurs, strong-minded, strong-willed, but not ashamed to show the downsides of their lives. You know, people like that. And again, you know, even the people that I meet, I've worked with my old shipmates as well. You know, I know that are still serving. I've got a friend, Jay Wilkinson. He's going to go outside soon, and you know, he's looking to the future. And I really hope that he succeeds, because I'm proud of him. You know, as an ex-colleague, but as his friend, I'm proud of him. So I measure that success. I don't say I absorb other people's success. I want them to be successful.
Yeah.
But by knowing them, I feel successful.
Yeah.
I may not have acquired riches, but I've acquired people in my life, and I'm very, very, very privileged to have that.
Which, of course, are riches in themselves. So 2016, travesty in anyone's measurement. So what happens then? Right, you've got one daughter, young daughter. You've been offered a medical discharge, so you say, "Yeah, I'm taking it," and then you move. And what happens?
So, I think I'll go straight there. And my wife passed away in September, and I broke, like any person would. I broke. I was broken. My daughter was very young, but when you're bereaved, you can't hide things like that from your child. You know, they know you're crying. You know, maybe I drank too much. I don't know. I tried to get therapy. I then eventually left for jiu-jitsu because I couldn't take the commuting all the time. My daughter, and then the money came through from the Royal Navy. I did one smart thing. I bought a flat for me and my daughter, and I got a job at a local CRM recruitment agency. And again, very lucky to have met them. I think I got very good exposure to something that wasn't military based. There was no military, there was no veterans, there was nothing. It was a business, it was a startup, it was a company trying to go places, and it was ambitious, but the people, brilliant people. And again, I stayed there till the February. So I started in November, I stayed there till the February, and the project wasn't for me. And it got to a point right now, this is not for me. But they were very good about it, and we both exchanged that pleasure. We parted on good terms. We both said, this isn't working, this relationship isn't working, I'm going to go. And they went, yes, you know, fine, brilliant. We're happy to support that. We're sad to see you go. Here's a month's wages, you know. And then I realized I had nothing. So by then I met my now wife. She was an old friend who I hadn't seen in years, and we bumped into each other, and we never really fell apart. We never really stopped being with each other, and so we started that kind of life together. It was hard because being with the bereaved man is never easy, because you feel like you're competing against a woman who's not there. But she was wonderful, and she still is. And I went to go work at a nuclear power plant in Dungeness, in the decommissioning Dungeness A project.
Right.
And a bit of a baptism of fire because I went as a contractor. So, if you're going contractor, people do your research onto accounts and taxes and all that, and the HMRC. Please do your research because I didn't, and my God, it was a nightmare. But it was hard work. It was up at 4, there by 7. You work 10 hours, then you're back home by 7 the next day. That night, and then and you did that 4 days. So I had Friday off, but it was hard work because I never saw my daughter hardly at all, and my Sophie, my girlfriend, had to become a stepmom for the first time, and it was very difficult. Very difficult.
And how long had you and Sophie been together at this point?
A couple of months.
Wow.
But she, I'll say she volunteered for it, but what's there not to love?
Yeah.
But she was amazing. But we both discussed it, and she took it on, and it was hard work for her because how do you take care of a bereaved child? And she did wonderfully well. But the contract was for a year. And in that year, so it went to a year. Me and Sophie got married in that year, and then the contract ended, and I went, oh no. It was when the government basically withdrew all the contracts for the nuclear sites, and I was like, great. But one of the things about working on the nuclear site was that's where I met a lot of people who were from the military, who hated being in the military, who didn't want to talk about it. And there were veterans there, but they didn't mingle with each other. They didn't want to. I found that very weird. It was the first time because, usually veterans kind of like, hey, mate, oh, you were doing this, you were doing that. They want to talk. None of them wanted to do it. None of them wanted to talk. No one wanted to be friends. It was a
what
dog.
Brought that on? What brought that on?
I think it was bad experiences. I think some of them had bad experiences.
Right.
Because of where we were, they were all submariners.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not going to pull any punches. There are some people that do have a bad experience in the submarine service. If it's not for them, it's proper bad. You're literally waiting to leave.
Yeah.
Once that hatch is shut, you're stuck there with people you may or may not like. You might be in a job you hate and you can't escape, and you grow to resent it. And when you leave, you don't want to think about those times. Totally get it. But this place was full of them. I was the only one who liked the Navy. You know what? I was the only one who wore my veteran pin.
Right.
So
you must have stuck out like a sore thumb then.
Like a sore thumb, like a sore bearded thumb. But really, again, met some nice people, and I was walking around all day. There was never a time there wasn't anything going on, and it was a very strict environment as well. There was because of course they're trying to achieve targets, so. But then the contract ended, and I realized for the first time I was without a job, and that was the first time I've been without a job since 2001. So very scary time.
What year are we in now?
That we're in 2017, I think.
Yeah. So that's 16 years.
Oh no, 2018. 2018. So that ended, and not to be put down, I thought I'm going to get some temp work. There was nothing going on, so I'll get some temp work. And I actually got a temporary job at a company down the road called MFTS, working for a great, again, just really good people. And the main boss, Fraser, a really, really clever man, business-wise. And working for another guy called Ben Kapath, who, again, really, really clever, really straightforward, but really good salesperson. It wasn't the gift of the gab, it was he knew what he was talking about, and people knew what he was talking about. So I did some temp work for them. I was just literally just trying to fix their database, or just going through the database. And I was on the phone straight away, and they were listening to me on the phone. No fear, and I got called, and Fraser goes, would you like to come work here? Try and build this business, MF Telecom Services, with Ben. I was like, yeah, I would. I really would. They offered me a decent salary. Wasn't more than, it was less than what I was on, but this was an opportunity to build something, and I felt that I could help build this business. So I became their operations manager. That basically meant that I did not only a sales and account holding role, it did, pastoral work, policy, procedure, things like that. So that meant that Ben could sell.
Yeah.
And we had two engineers, and it worked really well. We did, I learned about the comms industry, about SIP and PBXs, which is just basically phone boxes. But I learned about mobile contracts, things like that. Something really small like that, but learning to sell again, talking to professional people, and slowly but surely I built my pipeline up, and I was working, me and Ben were working together. We were getting, it wasn't like, oh, I'm a salesperson, you're a salesperson, we're going to beat each other. Whoa. It wasn't like that. Like ring a bell, no, none of that. It was, we're going to work together to build something. We're going to work together to make this a profitable company, a reputable company. And that's what we did. And we worked together, and we got some really good business. We worked with some great local companies, some great national companies, some charities as well. Some brilliant charities as well. And the engineers grew as well. We managed to hire another guy as well, Freddie, to do IT. So we started broadening out our IT. We started to transfer into more enterprise products for our company, such as Salesforce and things like that. And we started to grow. And then COVID hit. And lo and behold, we were successful during COVID. Because we're a telecoms company. So, like we were talking before, everyone started using House Party because they had no idea what Teams was. And, what's Zoom? And people were using House Party. We went, well, hold on. Now we've been promoting remote products for so long. Now we can actually, sell these products or give these products to our clients, help them. And we started to call everyone saying, do you need help? What's going on? How are you going to run your company? Can we help adapt it? We were coming up with a way of adapting the companies, our clients, to be able to operate. No one else was doing that. They said, oh, no one else does that. We were calling everyone, even the people that weren't us, saying, look, do you need any help? Local companies, hospices, homes, things like we said, look, do you need anything? Let us know. Old people's homes. We were like, please call us.
So how many were in the team then by this time?
So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people in the team at that time, and it was just busy, non-stop busy. We didn't let anyone go. There was no redundancies. We just kept busy. We kept our reputation going. Yeah, we might not have made a profit, but we made an impact. And that was, I think, working for Fraser and Ben taught me that. I mean, Fraser was very clever. Fraser managed to make sure that we could stay in business, and Ben did as well. And I think that for that, I'll be eternally grateful to them, because they worked very hard to do it, and they probably and I definitely think they didn't get paid. I think they didn't get paid themselves to survive, and it worked. And so we went through COVID, and it was about that time that I was getting bored of where we lived in Tunbridge Wells. And so me and Sophie, who is now my wife, went, let's move away somewhere. And we sort of looked at it, and we went on a trip to Lincoln. And her dad was thinking of moving away as well. Lincoln was lovely. It was like Holland. Everyone spoke English and drank the same drink. It was lovely. It was like a foreign country. We loved it. So we decided to move to Lincoln. We bought a house in Lincoln, and we moved up, and MF were like, go, we're remote. You can promote the company up north. And I went, yeah, sure, no worries. That's what I did. And, we got more business as well. We were hammering it that year. And then, I worked hard. I worked very hard for MF because I wanted it to succeed. And then I got to a point where I thought, I can't go any further. There is only so much I can do from my professional way. I need to step up. So it was, I think it was just a random. It was like I saw a job for an operations manager, and I think we've all done it. You're on LinkedIn, and you can't help but apply for a couple of jobs while you're on LinkedIn. Well, I've always wanted to be a lion tamer, and you send your CV. But one of the adverts caught my eye was I missed the greater good. I missed doing something to improve life, improve the way that things are done. And this advert caught my eye, and the CEO Rory was saying, he wanted to improve. I think it was his mother was a nurse, and he wanted to improve the services that were the digital services that were basically slowing things down, slowing nurses or slowing. And I liked that, and I looked at what they did, and I saw how they were growing and what they did for like the NHS, the DVLA, and places like that. And I went, I'd like to be part of something. So I applied, and I got the job. And I was sad to leave, but to be honest, I got, it was with MF's blessing. They were like, thank you very much for everything you've done. I still talk to them today. Again, just because you want to be successful doesn't mean you have to shit on everyone and stick your two fingers up on the way. It's not like that. And I still talk to Fraser and Ben today, and the engineers, Ben, and I know that Martin, who's one of the other engineers, he's just gone on to Bigger and Brighter Friends, and Freddie's there. Freddie's still there as well. And it's nice to know that people are there and still maintaining it, and I hope they're doing well. I mean, I don't inquire about how if they get any bigger. I don't do that because that's not fair, because they don't have me anymore.
Yeah.
But again, it was a good impact. It was good exposure to growing my professional acumen. Fraser and Ben were great teachers as well. And I sort of look at this in stages of the people that I've worked with, because I want to be a good leader. I want to be a good manager. The only way you can do that is by learning by good managers and bad ones, to be fair.
Yeah.
I've been very lucky. I've had people like Ronnie Regan, Dave Smythe, Tab Bevan, people like that, Robbie Robinson. I've already said Gareth Jenkins, Ryan Ramsey. The list could go on. I remember those people. I remember their names because they made an impact. I could stand next to them and learn something, and I did.
And sorry, go on. What was that?
No, please. No.
Right. So if you what's coming through for me, if you were a roller coaster ride at Blackpool, right, you would probably be one of the most up and down roller coasters that I've seen, right? Because you've been on the highs, you've also been on the lows. And what I want to know is, how do you deal with failure?
Like everyone else, I hate it. I won't lie. I'm not like, I love listening to people go, I failed once, but I got myself back in there, and no. When I fail, I fall hard. I'm not going to pretend that I, go, I look at myself and I just pick myself up, and no, I fall hard because failure is hard. I mean, failure is a big punch in the face to me, because knowing that you can't do something, or knowing that you failed to do something, is horrible. Especially when your 3-year-old can do it, But but then when you breathe, you take a couple of marching steps back, you breathe, and you look at what you've done wrong, and if you really do not know what you've done wrong, find someone that does and ask the question, how did I get this wrong? That's what a great leader is.
Mm.
That's what a great manager is. It doesn't, again, no, it doesn't have to be someone who's above you, who's done the job for 20 years. It could be the person standing next to you, and you say, what did I do wrong? They go, well, you didn't do that right. Oh man, thanks. But then you're like, why didn't you tell me that before?
Yeah,
uh, but
you numpty.
you
Yeah.
numped, you literally let me go through that on my own. But I'd rather have the failure and rather feel the pain of the failure and know that it actually affects me than those people who go, oh, I failed at that. Oh, never mind. Oh, it's, no wasted effort. Oh, I got, the pass mark 70%. I got 71. Well done, me. To me, that's a failure, because if you don't try hard at something, what's the point?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that failure, I mean, like when my wife died, I felt a failure of not being able to protect her.
Mm.
When I got my cancer, I felt a failure of not staying well while she was ill. And then I survived, and I felt a failure of surviving and she died.
Mm.
I felt a failure when I lost my naval career.
Mm.
I felt a failure for not doing what I should have done in my naval career, which was get promoted and go further in my naval career than I did. But then at the end of it, I look back and go, but I still had a great time. I still married a beautiful woman. I still had a great life with her. I still had a beautiful child. And I'm here where I am now. So did I learn from my failure? Yes, I did. I learned that no matter what happens, you may fail, but you'll get it right one day.
Mm. Thank you so much for that. And we've touched on just about everything. What I do want to ask you, is what's the importance of having a good social and or business network?
I'll be honest, and probably many people will hate this. I think it depends on you. I think that military people are very good at talking. Like me and you, we've talked for nearly 2 hours, and we could talk all week. And because we have this face-to-face contact, building a social network or a business network is hard. It takes a lot of effort. It's not about those people that blanket you with mail saying, I saw that you like the same thing as me. We should be connected, and you're like, well, no, that's not how it works. Just because we have the same letters in our names doesn't mean we should be connected by a business network. And I think that when you build a business network, you have to be strong socially as a military person, as an ex-military person, or a normal, even if you're not military.
Yep.
That strong social side of you has to come out in your networking, because you can't just, the days of the business card are gone. A website is a business card. A LinkedIn page is a business card. Even sometimes, if you don't put your Facebook profile as private, that's your business card, because people do look, and so this is your business card now. So it's important that this is, I'm not saying brush your teeth and.
But by the way, you're listening to this audio. What Jim actually did was point to his face.
I point to my face. Sorry, so I keep forgetting this. This is in a way, I've got a face for radio, so you're not missing anything.
Yeah, like me too. Yeah.
But it is important, if you are trying to better your business, to build that network, do it right. Find your sample, find your people. Don't just make friends with anyone, all right? Because that's what social networks are for. Business networks are for business. If you are going to try and find your customer, make sure you're going down the right paths. Best advice I can give you is look at groups first. Local counties have business groups, small business groups, large, medium business groups, or enterprise. Join those. They're brilliant. Why? Because you're mingling with other businesses, but also you're mingling with, so for example, I was in telecoms. If I wanted to get to know people, I join these groups. There's also BNI. I think it's still going. So
there's all sorts of business networks.
There's all sorts of business networks. So, but the more question is it important? I think if you are a business owner, yes, it is. If you are someone who generates business for your company, then yes, it is. But just remember your audience. Remember who you are. You can't bullshit a bullshitter. If you're trying to sell to someone who sells for a living, who wants your product, be careful, because you could be, it's things like that you have to be careful of. So it's important that you study your audience first.
Yeah.
So don't blanket mail. Don't be that person. I thought you had a J on your name and thought we'd make contact.
So, build relationships. Now, the fact is that I've got to be honest, I'm not able to list all the names you mentioned in your history. But what I can say is what comes through so strongly is you have an opinion about having a good mentor or coach. So tell me, how important do you think having a good coach or mentor is to your success?
I think it's one of the most important things, because I have hidden mentors. I'll give an example. On HMS Turbulent, we did a lot of command training and training for officers. And, ratings like me would stand and watch. I'd watch Ryan Ramsey or Gareth Jenkins giving a command brief on. It wasn't meant for me. It wasn't meant to train me. It was meant to train those individuals that they were talking to.
Mm.
But by being there, I learned what it was the way to talk, the way to demonstrate my point, the way to analyze, the way to come up with a picture for people to understand, but also the way to project myself. You don't want to speak like this and then tell people how to do things. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. You need to be animated. You need to be firm. You need to be to the point. And I think as well, having a good coach or mentor prepares you for, eventualities, that it's experience, it's lessons learned. And I don't know if it's necessarily dying out, the old mentor coach, it's not like, but I think it's very hard to find in today's day and age. It's very hard to find that leader you wish to follow, because it's a different world we live in. It's especially in today's world, where like we said in LinkedIn, we're seeing a lot of people open to work at the moment, and these are people that have, trying to find their way again. And they're trying to do it by thinking about how they've been taught, or how, and there's some really skilled people out there who could help companies with their staff. They could mentor them, and, it's so important. And, get this experience now. If anyone's, to the people listening, look on LinkedIn for these people that are looking for work at the moment. You've got some great experience out there right now that are, especially, we've had redundancies at Salesforce, Sophos, just to name a couple of big companies. These people are available right now, to get on them now.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, yeah. But yeah, it is good to have a good coach and mentor. Just to answer your question.
Thank you very much. So I think that this has come through strongly also. I want you to put it in a box in 30 seconds.
Okay.
How transferable do you think the skills are from the military to Civvy Street?
Completely. Look at it this way. You're hiring someone who's been in a highly disciplined environment, following an ethos of discipline, of dignity, of all these, of trained to the highest level in really hard areas. I mean, my God, if you took people for the amount of mile runs that we do in an office block, I think every company would be successful. But you're getting a diligent, strong, mindful person who will come in, hit the ground running. Why? Because that's what they're trained to do. They don't wait to be told what to do. They get on with it. And I think that is valuable and transferable to today's society, especially today's work areas, because unfortunately, there is a clear line between of the way people want you to be and the way that you have to be to get business done. And military people are the best people to make that happen, because you give them a mission, they'll complete it. They won't, nothing will get in their way. They will make sure they get things done. I think one of the things my current boss says is that she feels great that she can tell me to do something and she knows it's done. You know?
Yeah.
That's the way, and that's for every job I've been in. And I think that's, so that's
Thank you
it.
so much. And then
No
finally, what's the one top tip you would give to someone leaving the military, or who has already left the military, or maybe a business owner, or someone who wants to get on in life, who maybe is just wondering what the future holds? What's the one top tip?
Oh God, one top tip. Right. I'll give it. It's not of a tip. It's more of a pep talk. You are worth so much more than you think you are. All right. You're leaving a uniform service where you wear the same thing every day. You get your meals. You live in subsidized accommodation. You have a gym membership, free healthcare. All right. Don't just look at your salary. Look at how much all that is worth, and then add a bit more. That's how much you are worth. Don't just go for a job, and also do not make do with the first job that comes across your desk. You are not desperate. You are in need of a job, but companies need people like you. Do not make do. You've crossed the river. It's time to take on the ocean. All right. So just focus. You are worth more than you think you are.
James, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this because, I just believe truly that standing on the shoulder of giants is what we do in life. And you've mentioned the giants in your life, and you are a giant in my eyes. So thank you so much for joining me and taking time out of your day today.
It's a pleasure, Joe, and all the best. And bring on the summer.
Yeah, indeed. Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care, mate. Keep safe.
JoeTeams.com is a resource I've created to fulfill my mission to help 1 million veterans and business entrepreneurs like you achieve the goals, dreams, and aspirations they deserve. JoeTeams.com is jam-packed full of valuable resources specifically designed to help you on your journey to success. Visit JoeTeams.com now to find out how you can join and start your journey to success immediately. That's JoeTeams.com, JoeTeams, JoeTeams.com. And until we meet again, have a brilliant day.